Welcome or welcome back. This is Prayer 12 Knitting. I'm Jennifer, and this is a knitting podcast all about knitting, yarn adventures, and travel. Thrilled that you're here. Thank you for joining me today. We are featuring a traditional style knitting podcast with finished objects and whips. Today's video is going to be a quick and dirty. I'm filming right after work and I have a workout scheduled, so we are going to go through this very efficiently. I do have finished objects to show, and of course I'll be showing you some B-roll with me in them because I've started to wear them because we are approaching fall, which I'm thrilled about. A little more summery today, but we have been getting some fall weather in the morning and I'm up bright and early, so I get to wear my sweaters to work. Let's do it. So first of all, my very first finished object is this stunning beast. Of course, I have video of me wearing this, and I'm so excited to have this on my body. This is a tulip sweater by Melody Hoffman, and it is just a gorgeous sweater. I've knit this once already. This is my second time knitting this. This is in the yarn Forgarn by Hillesvag. I'm going to tell you about the sweater, a slight bit of modification, and the yarn, of course. So the tulip sweater, again, as I've said, is a my second time knitting this. The first time I should say is my neon pink sweater that I knit for Knit City. Super fun. It was a great time, and I knew that I had to be knit up again. This is probably not my last tulip sweater. It's a super easy, fun knit. I'll explain about the design quickly. It's a top-down raglan, compound. Yes, I remembered the word. It's a compound raglan, which means you are not increasing every other row, but following specific instructions from the designer to get a really beautiful fit of the, what is this called? The yoke, right. So, and then of course the beautiful interesting feature with the tulip sweater is a scalloped hem. I'll just bring it up a little closer to show. And it is worked, again, following the designer's beautiful instructions and video that you can watch and, of course, pause and follow along with, which I've done, that works up to be just this gorgeous detail of what is really a simple raglan sweater. It was very easy and a dream to knit. I toted this around with me, going here, there, and everywhere, and it's been a dream to wear. We're going to talk about the yarn. Oh, and mod. Sorry, the one modification that I really did make was the neckline. I casted on 10 less stitches to get a more cinched in neckline. The neckline, I feel, really resembles the bigger, almost bolt-like-esque neckline of the Helix pullover, which again, on that sweater as well, I've knit a couple times. I do reduce the stitches to bring in the neckline a little more. I do like more of a fitted neck band. The other mod that I did, which was unintentional, was the sleeves. I ended up excuse me, decreasing a little later than the designer intended. So the sleeve is a little baggier in the bicep tricep area. But you know, we're accommodating the big muscles we're gonna get this year, being back at work. In general, that's a tulip sweater. I did mostly follow the design and the instructions to get pretty much what was intended by the designer, Melody Hoffman. We're going to talk about the yarn. The yarn is the stunning Forgarn from Hillesvag. This is the unspun yarn that I purchased during my Hillesvag mill visit. If you have not seen my last video, which was the adventures to Hillesvag mill, I very much invite you to go check that video out. It was definitely a journey. Thank you for you that have commented, saying that you felt like you were along the journey with me as I was sharing the you know, planes, trains, and automobiles to get to the mill. Yes, so Forgarn. Forgarn is an unspun yarn. It is I have actually, excuse me about the bag. Unspun yarn. Sorry, I'm just started something in the subway today. And it's 2 strands of the plate that spun up, which is glorious for many different designs or gauges that I usually knit at. I think from my memory, of course, let's see, gauge. Right, 17 stitches per 10 centimeters on US 6 needle to get the gauge. I believe this was of the intended designer, of course, of the tulip sweater. I did go for a US 5 for the ribbing on this. The yarn was great. I've described this as kind of an in-between, a Frankenstein almost, if you will, of Nutiden and Plutolopi. It does have a super soft quality, even though still rustic, of an unspun. The strength, again, is between that Plutolopi Nutiden, so it is fairly feeble, a lot more weaker, I'll say, than Plutolopi, which I find is the strongest unspun yarn. So if you're going to kind of dabble into unspun, perhaps you want to try that guy first. Nutiden I found was beautiful yarn to wear for sure. For me, it was the most challenging yarn to work with because of the breakability. It really, I mean, I felt like it was knitting with like cobwebs sometimes, where it would just pull apart, and you know, had a magical quality about it, but wasn't always the super funnest to knit with. This Forgarn I did not have any issues with. I think the most challenging parts to knit of the sweater was actually the cast on. I think that's where my tension is the tightest, as well as the bind off. I did do the bind off that was recommended actually by the designer to get the complete scallop, and even though it was not a sewn bind off, it was with the needles, it still did break quite a bit. I'm happy to talk a lot more about this yarn, do a review in the future, but I think for now we are going to press on. I did not do a styling with this tulip sweater. I have not had a moment, but I have worn it. I also didn't share, this was cast off and blocked freshly for my very last day of Labor Day weekend before heading back into work. So this has so many beautiful memories of kind of that last little hurrah before heading back into work and celebrating my sabbatical year. It's just, every sweater of mine has so many memories, and this is definitely one of them. From running up all the hills of going to Hillesvag to my final days of hanging out in Toronto before heading back. Tulip Sweater by Melody Hoffman. The next up, we're gonna go here. This is a Sophie scarf. This has become, definitely since its release 2 years ago, I wanna say, a really popular kind of like scrap busting project, or I think really like, you know, memorable skein type thing. This is a design, simple scarf by Petite knit. They also have the Sophie shawl that I've also knit a number of times. I've knit this a couple of times as well. This is in Helix? Felix. I will put in the show notes because I get them mixed up. Yarn by Labien Aimee. This color is called Hella because it's hella bright and so fun. This reminds me in the city of a cone, like a construction cone, and I feel obviously this is like the brightest of bright oranges I can think of. It's been a dream to wear. The yarn is of course glorious and soft. It was so fun to knit. I did 2 strands, held double of this, and I did do a mod a bit on this guy. So I mean, you've heard of this probably a million times from other podcasters, but you basically start on one end, you measure your yarn, and you can do about like half the weight or mass of your yarn, and then start doing the other half. So you're knitting from one end to the next. The first section is increases, the second and last section are decreases before you cast off. This particular version I did with a mod is I increased to a certain point that I felt comfortable with, and then I didn't increase or decrease at all in the center. So it's totally just you know, one band almost. And then I started my decreases. I haven't weighed it, but it weighs next to nothing. It's a perfect length and it adds color, a little pop of color to my outfits. Still gives me kind of a me-made piece where perhaps I'm wearing thrifted or other commercial items. So I always like wearing something me-made, even if it's just tiny, like the Sophie shawl. I'm loving it. I also find, I don't know, I'm talking about this a little too much because I do like it. I do. Great travel knit. This is great for when you're not really sure what the temperature is going to be, but it's tiny enough that you can just like smush it into a little shoe if you need to go away and not take up a lot of room. Stick it in the corner of your suitcase, and you're going to add color. You're going to add some me-made and warmth because, you know, depending on the fabric or fiber that you're knitting with, it can be warm. So I traveled with one of these. It was in a very different yarn. It was my red guy to Norway with me. And that's exactly what I used it for. It was the only like scarfy thing that I brought. It's really all I needed. So love it. That's the Sophie scarf by Petite Knit in Helix or Felix, again, show notes, by Labien Aimee. Hella. Last finished object. I know I'm bringing these up with you. Last finished object is my one summer knit. Is this the Tekla top, it's called. This is by Milena. Oh my goodness, the name, I'm forgetting, it's escaping me. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to be efficient and not edit a million things. I will, of course, put everything in the show notes. It was a beautiful pattern. This is not coming up well. Beautiful pattern of a camisole that's knit. The original design was knit with cashmere. This I knit in lean, which is a blend of viscose cotton and linen, I believe. This is yarn by Sandnes Garn, and it's the thicker of the two. This is like the original lean, not the tin lean, which is the thin one. And very different fiber content and fabric that came up than the designer intended. Of course, cashmere, very different qualities to it. But I really love the color. I really had that vision of having just a fun knit. This took me forever. This is my one and only probably plant fiber that I will use this year. I cast this on during my Mexico trip, which was in January, and I cast off last like a couple weeks ago in August. I've not worn it yet, so I'll talk about the construction really quickly. Is you're basically knitting 2 triangles in the front to cover the bust, and then you attach to start knitting in the round for the whole body. Very tiny little back, so it's a little risque and fun. You increase to get this ruffle, but you're not doing anything fancy or special. I did just what did I do? Pullover pearl bind off to get the bind off I got. Super happy with that. I did an I-cord as intended, but a lot less stitches, or a lot less pieces of the I-cord stitches on the I-cord, so it turned out thinner. And I think I did maybe the recommended for the straps. I was very careful with how the length of strap I was choosing, because I knew this was going to pull a lot with the gravity and the weight of the fabric. But then in trying it on, even after blocking, I really had to squish, like push the triangles down so they didn't buckle. They were really like puffing out, and I realized only after I used the wrong needle. I used a very much smaller needle on the I-cord bind off than I should have. So I did some mistakes, fiber choice, and then the I-cord bind off. Anyway, trying it on, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for my body. This is intended for someone with a larger bust than I. So what I've done, when I've done trying on, I was pinching the center to try to get less fabric. You'll see pictures, but I had to be careful with how I was taking those. And what I think I might do if I'm ever going to consider wearing this is somehow I will stitch up the center to pull it in and allow the camisole to sit a little better. Haven't worn it yet. I think this is something that I could wear if I did indeed stitch that center line together to bring in the bust line. But I think it would be something that I would feel comfortable only wearing at home. Yes, beautiful pattern. I would maybe consider, if I was going to knit again, in more of an intended fiber, a yarny, woolly bit instead of a plant fiber. I would not recommend this pattern with a plant fiber. Just saying, which I'm sure the designer's like, I wouldn't do that either. So there we are. That is my one summer knit, my one plant fiber knit, the Tekla top. There we are. We are done our finished objects. We are going to move on just to my whips. So we're gonna do that. And magically, I have to get ready for the gym in like minutes. So we're gonna see. My first whip is a knit that I've started before, I think it was before Norway, definitely before Nova Scotia. I had a vision of a slipover and I've been adoring knitting this up. I'm not done. I've been taking things out, redoing them. I'm not following a pattern, and so I'm going, I'm going rogue. This I'm really enjoying. I'll hold it like this, and maybe I'll take video. Probably not. I don't think I'm gonna have time. This is going to be a simple slipover with the intention of just having clean lines. What it is, front and back, is just something that I've cast on. I'm doing, what am I doing here? I'm doing a 2x1 rib at the bottom, hemline. With the side seams, I'm finishing with a double knit band to give it cleanness. I was doing different stitch counts and some was like way too thick. It didn't sit right. Anyway, so we've reduced, we've retried so many different things. I'm very happy with now how it's working. I have a vision of adding side ties. You're gonna see, I'm saying ties loosely, but I'm having a vision of where this double knitting band is going to grow, of course, and then connect to the side. But I'm playing with kind of thickness of that band that I want. I'm not sure yet, and I'm almost considering blocking this out first to see how big I want to have that band or how wide. So this will actually literally slip over the head and arms will come out here. They won't actually be ties. And then I'm going to do obviously a neckline with the yarn that I have that remains. This yarn, I don't have the bow band with me. It's a sport rate yarn that I got from Vienna years ago, and leftover mohair from a ranunculus. I'll show you quickly. So this is the yarn I got from Vienna. It's 100% Viennese wool, discontinued, but sport, so easy weight to sub in. And then just some mohair. This one is Sandnes. It's their tin silk mohair, I think. Yes, it is. And that's from a ranunculus that I have knit in the past. It's been a good knit. I am being mindful of how I'm knitting because of my over knitting. I find double knit or double knit button bands or double knit anything can be really stressful, I think, hard for my hands. So I'm just taking in strides and there's no rush. So I've been enjoying that. I have bigger plans for this, and you're going to see in the future what the big plans are. Okay, that's it. So that's my slipover that we're going rogue on. Have a great time.
I have one other silly little cast on that I'm going to share in 2 seconds. It's just a hat that I started in the subway today with the leftover Forgarn. I'm just going rogue. I've cast on 80 stitches, not following a pattern, but I'm doing a 1x1 rib with the intent of just knitting up. So this is like the base of the hat, and I want it to be solid. I want like a coney head. Excuse me. So that's the intention with this. And we're just taking it as a little transit knit because I'm kind of like between projects right now. And we are going to be coming up with a super, I'm excited, I hope you find it exciting fall podcast very soon. That's going to include all kinds of fall goodness. So I'm kind of like trying to pump the brakes a little bit so I don't get started on a brand new project and then have to like switch over after that fall podcast. Okay, that's it. I am going to say, hopefully see you very soon. I hope the solo podcast being like quick and dirty with a share was okay. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, I invite you to like and subscribe. If you're feeling a little more, click down on the bottom link for the Ko-Fi account. And let me know what you're knitting on. Are you between projects too? Have you knit with Forgarn? Is there other unspun yarn? Because some people are sharing new to me unspun yarns, and I'm very willing to try them because my heart is definitely always has that affinity of unspun. And we shall see you soon again for a very fall knit. Wishing you well, happy knitting, and until next time, take care.